I'd like to call the meeting to order, Monday, April 7th, 2025, the Cascade Charter Township Planning Commission meeting. Record attendance. All are present. Everybody, let's stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Take a motion to approve the current agenda.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. If anybody on the planning commission would like to disclose any conflict of interest?
None for me.
Oh, all right. Hearing none, move on to Article 5, approving of the minutes for March 10th, 2025.
I just have one correction in the minutes. Setting the public hearing. The ones in this packet that's on our screen right now are correct, but they were incorrect when they were posted online as earlier today. So they were public hearing. No, the date, the minutes, the address for the public hearing was incorrect, and I believe it's incorrect in the packet. But I think on our ones that are in front of us right now, the address is correct.
Well, where are you at, Wendy?
Just under number 7.
So the.
Oh, no,
address.
sorry. I'm looking at our agenda. So article. Sorry, I just got to get to the minutes in my packet. In the minutes, Article 8 from our last meeting had a cut and paste address. Yeah, so From the whispering. As of this morning, like noon, when I printed my packet, the address was incorrect in the minutes.
Okay.
The Spring Ridge address, it did not have the correct Spalding address, but the minutes that are before us
Have been
appear to be
changed.
correct.
Okay.
Yes, so it has been changed since it was posted.
Okay.
All right. I would move to approve with the change noted.
I'll support.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Now we're going to move on to Article 6, acknowledging visitors and those wishing to speak. I will say that if you're here for one of the public hearings, which is either the Shaggy Pines Dog Park or the 1700 Spalding, we will have an open hearing and you have a chance to speak then. So if you're here to speak on something other than the two issues that are in front of us today, this would be the time to do it. If not, please wait till those issues come up. All right. Nobody's here. Okay, Article 7, Shaggy Pines Dog Park.
This hearing should be somewhat procedural. We just wanted to make sure that any changes that were made to the dog park were brought before the planning commission again. So the address in question is 3895 Cherry Lane, and this was heard I believe in November, where the applicant came to add a building to the dog park to be used for the dog park use. We go to page 9. So everything that was approved at the previous hearing is exactly the same. The difference will be that the approved building is moved from, oh, is that page 9? Sorry. Is moved from the south side of the building a little bit further to the center of the property. So the site plan that is provided doesn't have all of the landscaping and current vegetation or rivers on the property. However, the proposed as it's presented, if you look at an aerial, does not add or will not require that any of the trees on the site are cut down. Staff did not see any negative impact by moving the site here. If you look in the staff review, this would be a special use. So all of the special use standards are laid out in your staff packet. I recommend approval of the amendment to the previously approved site plan.
Is the applicant here? Would like to? Please come up. And state your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Bruce Wright and it
Mhm.
says 3895 Cherry Lane.
Great.
Again, I appreciate your time again tonight and I agree with Andrea. It's pretty straightforward, hopefully. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. Really, in all basic regards, it's a better place. We work more with the builder and then we had the health department came out and checked the septic and everything. We can tie into that more easily. The soil and erosion permit, we have that from the road commission. So it's further off all the property lines, further off the road. And most importantly, it's where my wife wants to put it. So that's why I'm back before you. Sorry to take up your time, but I think it's pretty straightforward.
Footprint's the same.
Footprint's the same, everything's the same. It's just moved to a more central spot on the property.
Does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
No, not for that.
No.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
You have a staff question?
Just, I just have a question about, this is like motioning on something that's already been approved, that was approved before, that was approved before, that was approved before. So my question is, at the previous meeting in November, the motion was made to approve it with certain conditions. And I don't see all of those conditions listed in this new approval that were noted on the previous motion to approve. So I'm just wondering, when we motion to approve this one, do we need to include all the previous conditions that are not listed in this current
So-
conditions?
Yeah, that I did recommend that just the motion, the current standards or conditions that the previous conditions from case number 02-2533 and 24-3866 remain in effect. So we're at least referencing them. If we want to take those and put them directly into the minutes for this hearing, I think that we can do that without having any issue.
Okay, so we don't have to make a specific motion, but they will be included in the minutes because they are addressed in the conditions in the.
Yeah, I think the motion would, I think part of the motion for their approval would just be, subject to the previous conditions that were previously approved in that Russell's case number. If you don't have to specifically list out every single condition, I would just reference those conditions that there were conditions in the motion.
Okay, well, you need to give those two case numbers just so. Right.
I do, they're right in the draft motion in your staff review, and all of the motion, the previous conditions are in the staff review. So if you want to use the draft motion, which would be on page 11, I'm lying to you, I'm sorry,
I know.
page 13.
13, yeah,
There's a sample motion there.
under recommendations.
Sorry, I've got. Okay. I believe Page 13.
I can put it up
So
on the
hard
screen
to
too.
Print it, all of the page numbers don't come, the original page numbers.
Oh, yeah.
Specific
On the
separate.
bottom, page 7, it's page 13 of the entire packet.
Okay,
All right.
that's all. I just want to, I don't have any concerns or anything. I just want to make sure that because this has come forth so many times, that all of the conditions, if this is the final approval, that we want to make sure all of those original conditions have been noted with this one, because I'm afraid 10 years from now, this might be
Yeah,
final that somebody comes back and references, and I just want to make sure that all of the.
and the case number that I was also on the same page, and that's the case numbers are right in that motion. And it's up on the screen now, if you guys want to toggle and use it as a.
I'll listen to a motion to go to public hearing on this.
I'll make a motion to go to public hearing.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll open the public hearing. At this point, if anybody has any comments they'd like to make on Shaggy Pines, this is the time to do it. Anybody online? Nobody online. Make a motion to close public hearing. All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Any discussion amongst commissioners? I don't really have an issue with this. I think it's fine. I agree with Wendy's assessment. We should reference the previous case number and all the conditions that apply with it, but I don't have any issues with this.
No issues.
Nope.
No issues.
All right, somebody want to throw a motion out there? I'm looking at you, Wendy.
I'll make a motion to approve. Sorry, now I gotta find this original case number. Is this, because I'm assuming this has a new case number associated.
It's right there in recommendations, case number 23-380 on page 3.
You want me to make it? I can just read it off my screen.
Yeah, just read it.
All right. I'm gonna make a motion. I'm gonna read the sample motion here. Based on the previous findings of the planning commission on December 16th, 2024, and the determination that the amendments to the site plan do not impact the requirements of approval from section 17.03.1.a. I make a motion to approve case number 25-3880, an amendment to the site plan associated with the special use approval for an accessory building over 832 square feet located at 3895 Cherry Lane Southeast east with the following conditions. That the previous conditions from case number 02-2533 and 24-3866 remain in effect.
Support.
All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so now we'll go on to Article 8, 1701 Spalding Avenue, PUD 97.
Okay, as our chair had mentioned, this is 1701 Spalding Avenue. We had a meeting last month to set a public hearing for a rezoning of previously approved PUD 97. PUD 97 was approved in 2017. However, as you can see from the staff review, there was a number of the requirements within the planned unit development that were never acted on. Therefore, we talked with our legal attorneys and tried to figure out what the best move forward for this property was. We did find that the PUD was expired, and that reverting back to the original zoning before the planned unit development was the best move to just have a clean slate on this property. So to be clear, there has been a lot of proposals on this property. A lot of trees have been removed. There has been some work, but none of the actual development as far as roads, buildings, infrastructure, were ever developed on this site. Therefore, we think that the best move would be to just rezone this. I did have a conversation with the owner last week of the property, who actually lives in Arizona and is hoping to come back in May. He made a request that, I told him that we would hold the public hearing, but he made a request that we would wait, that the planning commission wait on their recommendation to the board until he can get back and speak on it in May. I explained to him again, that this was procedural, that this is really not changing the uses that are allowed on the property at all. It's just kind of establishing what the zoning of this property is now that we have a default on the PUD. I've talked with some of the neighbors. I'm sure that many neighbors will have comments, and we invite those. Again, we want to stress, so this is not approving any development on the site. This is simply reverting the planning, the zoning of this property back to its original plan zoning, and giving it a clean slate so that whether the owner of the property or his potential buyer or subsequent owner will have a clean slate to be able to bring a development forward to the planning commission.
So, just so I make sure I understand, this is really for you guys, right? So a special zoning was requested and given. That special request is expired, and this is bringing it back to the original zoning.
That's correct.
And then if somebody comes back and wants to develop the property, they still have to come to us, meet all the guidelines, and we still have to approve or not approve it.
Correct.
Okay, just,
Considering, I will say, considering that's an ARC parcel, if someone wants to come in and, make a single family home or any, any development that wouldn't require a private or public street, they could do that by right and it would be approved in the planning department, but that would be, one parcel essentially, because if they wanted to develop more than that, they would have to connect to a public road or develop a private road. So if somebody wants to develop one house, it will not come back to the planning commission.
anybody have any questions for staff?
I got a lot of things that I would like to ask real quick is that in the condition the property is now and say that, okay, we're going to let it go back to the way it was. Are they going to go back and clean it up? I physically walked the property and it is a real mess, especially with the water, the standing water throughout both the Abigail side and the Tall Pine side, which is, of course, will be mosquito infested this summer. But what's going to be done with the land if we decide, okay, it's going to sit there now because nobody's going to do anything?
Actually, the applicant, when they called me last week, they are working with Eagle. The planning commission doesn't have really any authority to do much. And actually, the board has asked the same question and is, trying to make sure that this property is safe, is brought.
I can,
Yeah.
yeah, and I can probably elaborate a little bit on that, because the township board did ask some questions about that, particularly as it related to violations, potential violations of soil erosion ordinance and sedimentation control. Some of the jurisdiction over enforcing those types of regulations lies with the county. So to the extent that the county ordinance is in violation, for example, the land moving that was done on the property without a county permit, that would be the county jurisdiction to enforce. But we did note to the township board that we do see some violations of the township's ordinance as well. Which obviously would result in, if the township board wanted to pursue enforcing violations of that ordinance, which I believe ordinances are deemed civil infractions, so they would have to submit a citation against the owner and the developer who created the conditions on the property, and it would proceed through the typical district court civil infraction process. But it's kind of a separate process to what we would be dealing with here if there was another application for a similar type of project. That would certainly be something that the planning commission could consider in its evaluation of any, upcoming projects as it relates to that property. But it would be kind of separate, and really lie with the jurisdiction of the county and the township board to enforce any ordinances that may have been violated as it relates to the activities that were done on the property, under the old PUD permit that has expired. So really what we're talking about here is just reverting it back to the ARC designation. And then any land uses and special uses that would be permitted within the ARC district would either go in front of the planning commission if they were special uses, or would be permitted by right if it were, like Andrea said, perhaps a house, single family home or something like that. If a developer came in and wanted to rezone the property again to a PUD or some other zoning designation, that would go through the same process, start back from the beginning. And of course, as you may know, the PUD process is very lengthy and takes time and a lot of meetings with planning to even before it comes to the planning commission. So there's a lot of steps that have to be done first. But to the extent that there are ordinance violations, we have had conversations with the board about that. And the board is, has the ability to enforce those if it so chooses, or contact the county to seek enforcement, to the extent those violations are also violations of county law.
So in other words, the planning committee cannot suggest or put ideas about, okay, if that land's going to sit like this, they have up until, say, the 1st of August, they either clean the land Or if Cascade has to step in and clean it for them and charge them back for it?
That would be the township board to make that decision, whether or not they wanted to pursue a civil infraction violation process. Part of that process could include, like you mentioned, seeking a court order requiring them to clean it up within a certain time frame. If they don't do so, allowing the township to do it and then placing whatever costs associated with that as a lien on the property and collecting it as part of the property taxes. But the planning commission itself does not have the authority to do that, although you certainly could, you know, your voters as well, you're certainly free to speak with, township board representatives to discuss any concerns you might have. But ultimately, they would be the ones who make that decision. When you decide.
Could we make a stipulation if they came back in future development, could we say, you know, part of us giving you approval to do this future development is you have to clean up the land before you start the development? Okay.
Or stage it in certain ways.
Okay.
And that way the planning commission can look at that by the stages they decide to do it, or it'll be the overall.
Either way,
I
however.
think
the
it's
planning
a
commission-
two-phase process and,
Yeah.
yeah, typically there's a preliminary phase and then a final development phase. I believe under your ordinance, so you would be part of both of those processes. And again, like I said, it goes through planning quite extensively before it even comes in front of the plan. And to review and consider, so it's PUDs are one of the most, I would say one of the most intense processes in planning. So.
I will tell a general comment to the new commissioners on more than one occasion when the commission has voted a direction that I didn't agree with. I went to the township board and as a citizen and voiced my opinion. On all occasions that I've done that, the board has kicked it back to the planning commission. So if you don't agree with something, you definitely have a voice, as do you as well, right? I mean, they're here to serve you, so they want to hear from you. If we don't hear from you, we take our best guess. So your voice carries a lot of weight, as does ours with them. So keep that in mind.
It's just the length of time this has been going on.
Yeah.
It's getting a little out of.
I agree. I agree.
And in general, the board historically has trusted the planning commission
Yeah.
with their decisions, so, and that's how it should be. The planning commission
Mm-hmm.
should be the ones that come up with recommendations to the board, and the board should trust that they're being recommended from the planning commission and go along with it. And if there's issues, then it comes back.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any other questions for Sarah? No? Okay, is the applicant here? I'd like to,
No applicant. the
Okay,
applicant is
applicant.
the township board.
oh, the applicant's township board, yeah, sorry, that's right, sorry. All right, I'll make a motion to go to public hearing.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Going to public hearing, I'll give you 3 minutes to come up and talk. We ask that you just give us your name and address for the records. So anybody that'd like to come up and talk on this, you're welcome to.
Somebody's gotta be.
All right, I did talk back in November and I went past my time limit, so I'll make sure to start my little
That's all right. No, I-
time stopwatch, and you probably remember me.
Yep.
Beard, long hair.
Yep, you did great.
I did send you the email today with some pictures. My name is AJ Bashara. I live at 4810 Cavalcade. So back when the land was split in 2017, they created 2 parcels and there's 2 houses in the northwest corner. One of those houses are mine. So me and my neighbor, we do agree 100%, right? Go back to rezoning. I think it makes sense to do that. However, I think with the significantly less density, however, I think there should be a couple caveats. Can you go to my email that shows the path? I don't know if you remember, but the only construction they did, they created a path from the neighborhood through my yard and my neighbor's our neighbor's yard. I have a couple pictures that I sent to Andrea today, just so you guys could see the path. It's a 729-foot paved path through lowlands. No, the board, everybody pretty much has agreed in the past, it should have never been made in the first place. So what we're requesting, because it spans 260 feet that separates our yards that we're actively maintaining, is that the path is completely removed. And with its removal, we're hoping that a professional landscapes company can come in. So there's the path. You can kind of see how it goes through our yards. We're hoping a professional landscape company can come in. Obviously, create a plan that can establish some cohesiveness between our properties. This path has separated our yards since the beginning, since the houses were built. And the reason I'm bringing it up now is because when we rezone it, kind of like, remember Cribs mentioned there, like, can we do something and require them? What I don't want to happen is like what's happened the last 8 years where this gets forgotten. And ultimately me and my neighbor are responsible for, tearing this up or the upkeep. It shouldn't be our responsibility. So our hope is that we can, get that cleaned up and have it done right. On top of that, I sent you a PDF. You don't have to pull it up, but at least for your records, there was a legal easement that was established between the landowner and Greystone Homes, who owned the property when they built it. And what I want to see too, and my neighbor, she wasn't here, Deanna, she's at Deanna Miller, 4800 Cavalcade. We want to see this easement terminated. The landowner has not held up to their end of the bargain. They've done zero upkeep. I mean, I don't know if any of you have walked this path, but it's dangerous. People in our neighborhood still use the path just because it's been there for so long. They come through, kids are riding their bike. So it's dangerous. We want to see it removed. There's never been any snow removal. So we're also requesting the easement to be legally terminated. And then, like I said, I'm just bringing it up now because who knows what's going to happen with this property? Maybe the landowner sells it. There's no telling. We ultimately just don't want to bear the responsibility of the cleanup, and we want it done right because we spent a lot of money maintaining it. We have underground sprinkling, so things need to be done the right way. The last thing I do want to quick say is that, can you pull up the other picture? It just kind of shows the mounds. It sounds like you had seen them, the property. So the last quick thing, I heard it, I know.
That's fine, I'll let you go.
I saw it said 5 minutes per peep, so I tried to stay close to that. You can kind of see that's what all the neighbors can kind of see, right? You got these big giant mounds. So what I'm hoping is they've never started the construction. They just cleared the land. So I'm hoping that the township can enforce performance guarantees on the next approved project as stated in zoning ordinance, chapter 16, section 6 and 7. Mostly because of the clearing of all the trees, what I do want to see is the township require planting of a significant amount of trees so we can just ensure this development is separated by a natural border of trees and plants. I mean, I don't want to have to look out my window every day and just see construction equipment. So I'm ultimately hoping we can plant some trees and just create that natural boundary and barrier between the new development and the property surrounding it. So other than that, thank you. 4 minutes, I did pretty good compared to last time, but
Thank you.
I did a lot of research the last time. I only lived in the house for a little over a year, so I probably know a lot more about this, but I will say I do welcome the opportunity to speak to the landowner. I've never met him or talked to him, so if he has to work with us, I'd be happy to work with him to try to come up with a conclusion.
Great. Thank you for coming.
Thank
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay.
Is the owner online or no?
Okay.
I have a quick question. What does the township own? The township owns all the fairground in front there all the way up to the tree line?
Sorry, you have to come up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Name and address for the record, please.
Bill Boss, 1674 Spalding. I'm just curious what the township owns in there.
Yeah.
My property line goes to the lot right.
A blue screen. No more taxes for you.
You don't have one of those. Yeah,
She's gonna pull up the map so you can see ownership.
yeah.
To show you exactly.
And there is a county drain through the middle of that property also, so Martin Beek.
That's the property right there.
So here's the subject property
Right.
Township owns a big,
up here,
nope, the
Nope.
Pentagon shape just to the south of that. Right there.
this one.
Yeah.
So south of the,
Oh. Okay.
so there's Tall Pine.
Tall Pine, yeah, yeah.
And the property, the township's property, my understanding is in the lot.
Yeah,
Correct.
it is.
I've
There's
been
the,
running
and
that
then the
property
park is
since I
the
was
the
5.
Cascade Park, or not Cascade Township, the park that's right off of
Yeah, that's the
the,
Kentwood Park.
the Cavalcade
Yeah.
development.
Okay. So they don't really own,
No,
They own,
not the property I originally owned, they owned what Joe Boyden owned. Which he did Tall Pines with Sherlock.
That's right. I think you said I think I remember you last time. I think you said your family owned the property, or
Yeah.
all of it. That it was a farm.
Like 50 years.
Yeah.
oh, MDOT, okay.
Yeah.
Cause I know MDOT's doing some wetland reclamation up
correct.
here.
Okay,
So there's opportunity for maybe some pedestrian connectivity there, and we'd still like to, work as the township and the MDOT work together to hopefully develop some good pedestrian connectivity there, if possible.
MDOT owns everything.
Yeah.
there. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to, any other public comment? All right, I'll make a motion to close public comment. All those in favor? Aye. So I guess I have a question about that. I'm glad you brought that up, and we talked about that, we talked about that just last week, I think it was. What can we do legally to get that walkway removed? I think that's an interesting point, if it's going back to the original PUD, then I would think that the easement would then go away.
I have to review I have not seen or reviewed the easement, so I would have to take a look at that to determine, and I don't know if that was recorded before or after, or when it was in the process of the, approval of the PUD, or whether it was part of our conditioning of approving it. Typically, the township wouldn't be able to force, the, termination of an easement agreement between two private property owners that it's not a party to. But again, I'd have to take a look at the easement to get a better idea, what rights the township might have to condition any future approvals on removing of that path, or what sort of maintenance. And again, it might be a situation where there's, maintenance responsibilities in that easement that are not being complied with, that the, grantee of the easement would have rights to enforce. That's not something necessarily the township would potentially have the standing to do, but the other private property owner who is part of that easement certainly would.
That would be another question, is if there's maintenance rights, then either remove the sidewalk or start maintaining it. And I guess the other question would be, then you maintain it to Cascade Township standards.
Yeah, and I think we certainly could condition an approval on maintenance of that sidewalk, separate to whatever conditions or requirements are in the easement itself.
Yeah, I certainly defer to the comments of council here. I understand why you bring this up and why you'd be asking for it under the circumstances. But yeah, that's kind of my take too. I don't know what the role for the township would be here. The landowner may have some rights themselves to look into, whether it's, abandonment or frustration of purpose, or the grantee not meeting its obligations here. But, those might be things that you might be able to look into privately. I don't see a role for the township to be able to just step in and remove somebody's easement, unless, like you said, we had something specifically conditioned in the PUD.
If we vote to have it go back to the original, let it sunset, go back to the original, can we, do we have to postpone and wait to hear what you come up with doing due diligence on the easement and what okay, so we can, two totally separate. Okay.
Yep. And I also did want to comment as well, because there was, I believe you made a comment regarding potential financial sureties or requiring some sort of bond. And that is something that we did discuss with the township board as well, requiring it. And your soil erosion and sedimentation control ordinance does have provisions in its ordinance with respect to requiring a security deposit. It's a very small amount though, so we have talked about potentially revising that in a way to increase it in circumstances like this, where I think it's $200 is not probably not sufficient,
Yes, and
so.
and I'm just gonna add to that, I think before our current planning director, and even the one before that, I think he was trying to get us higher surety bonds. But the township did no enforcement of any such or raising, I mean, for tree requirements even, the minimum amount that they got for surety bonds never would cover any of the fixing or completing projects. So that is something our current board has been working on trying to do along with our current planner of getting those things up to the fees and the amounts that we would need to fix things if things went south like this one did.
Right.
Especially with rising costs too, it's difficult to set up any that work, and especially, I don't typically recommend having a specific amount set in an ordinance, because it's harder to change. Usually for something like that, we would say as set by resolution of the township board, it can change from time to time more easily. And obviously change with inflation as well as costs of maintenance responsibilities increase.
Is that something that we can do for future approval of development? One of the stipulations is the developer would have to remove the sidewalk if they want. If you want to develop this property, you've got to clean some things up. One of the things cleaning up before you even start is removing this.
I probably would want to take a look at the easement before I give a specific answer on that.
Okay.
Too. Like I said, I think certainly requiring maintenance of that property would be an acceptable and reasonable condition. But I don't want to go too far to potentially, disturb any rights that might be granted to either the grantee or the grantor in that easement agreement without having reviewed it.
So you can't improve it, okay, it's in bad shape now, let's have them fix it so it's decent and not
I
just
think-
little, it looks like just a little trail with some asphalt.
I think you could certainly require, like, I think we talked about, the chair mentioned about requiring them to bring it up to township standards as it relates to sidewalks. So I think that would be appropriate.
Or remove it.
Right.
Can you give them the option, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Depending on who knows future,
That's
what
it.
is
Right.
going to
Yeah.
end up
And
there.
again, this is
because it
all,
might be
this is all very
connected.
Yep.
hypothetical
Yep.
speaking. No current application tonight would be moving it back to the art designation that was before it was rezoned.
So we can't get you anything, but we're on it, right? Like it's on our radar. Yeah. So,
Very far down the road,
Yeah.
most likely.
but please keep coming back because people come and go, right? So, and if people leave and they don't have the knowledge of what was here, so please keep coming back. All right, does anybody have any comment? I
I just-
have a
yeah.
problem with this.
No, my only comment is, this is just like a formality we're going through that really, you're reading through everything from legal and the recommendations. I feel like this is just a formality. It's already a null and void PUD. So it's just a formality of putting it back to the original zoning, just so that it's labeled as something.
Yeah, the reason we recommended this, that the township board make this directive to the planning commission was because if an applicant does come back and wants to rezone that property, which is my understanding they might, it makes it very confusing if that rezoning were to be denied by either the planning commission or the board. Because then you still have this expired PUD on that property, and so it just clears it out if we just revert it back. And unfortunately, unlike a conditional rezoning, PUDs, when they expire, they don't automatically revert back to the original zoning designation. So the only way of doing it is going through the process and the zoning enabling act to rezone the property back.
Okay.
Yep. So
One other question I have is when, and I'm not trying to hold your feet to the fire, when can we expect to hear back from you on looking into at 60 days, 30
Okay.
days? Okay.
We'll be in touch with Andrea.
Okay.
I've got to get a copy of the easement, although I think is it in the packet?
It was in the packet,
Okay.
or like the supplemental thing that came through today.
Yeah, and it certainly would be something we would, require as part of the review anyway of any application for that property, because it's, recorded against that property, so.
Go for it.
all right, make a motion to recommend the rezoning of 1701 Spalding from Cascade 1 PUD to ARC Agricultural Rural Conservation based on the following findings. The Township Board approved the rezoning of the subject parcel on November 1st, 2017. The applicant failed to fulfill the requirements of the PUD. The applicant did not commence construction within a year or seek an extension for the Township Board. The Township Board by resolution requested the rezoning consistent with section 1608(2) of the Cascade zoning ordinance.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. At this point, we'll move on to Article 9, acknowledging any visitors wishing to speak. Right, nobody's wishing to speak, so we will go on to Article 10, other business. Does anybody here have any other business they want to discuss? All right, Article 11, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Adjourned. Thank you.
It's all that complicated stuff.